Daniel from GaraMusicStudio.com, and in this series of videos this week, I'm talking about planning out and scheduling your studio's success. What are the actions that you have to take each and every week, each and every month, maybe even on a yearly basis? What are those actions that you need to do that's going to put your studio ahead? And I do want to start again, like I've said the last couple days, that this doesn't have to do with the personality type. It doesn't matter if you're type A, type B, introverted, extroverted, none of that matters. When it comes to preparation, there's many different ways to get to the goal that you're wanting to get to. It doesn't necessarily have to be that you're this super rigid type A person that schedules everything down to the minute. But just like any musician, no matter what type of personality they are, they have to prepare for a performance. They have to prepare for a recital. We all have different ways of going about that. So I don't want these videos to come across as preachy or demanding that someone act in a certain way. These are great ideas that will help you get ahead, help your studio get ahead, help your studio to grow, retain more students if you were to implement them. Now, I want to start today with a great quote. I meant to do one yesterday. I did them on the first day. I meant to do one yesterday, but I forgot to say it. So today I made a note to myself. I don't want to forget that. The great quote for today comes from David Allen. He's this corporate consultant who helps CEOs kind of take charge of their life. He has this fantastic quote. I've been very influenced by him over the last 15 years. And the quote is, "Your mind is for creating ideas, not holding them." Your mind is for creating ideas, not holding them. And just as we go into this video, and now we've had a couple days of ideas, things that you could implement, I would just urge you, don't let this video be simply intellectual entertainment. Don't let it be a distraction that pulls you out of the action that you need to be doing on a daily basis to help your studio get to where you want your studio to get. So take the ideas here today, and honestly, today is I think the simplest one of the entire week. Take the idea here today and absolutely run with it. And before I jump into that and talking about what to do, I want to kind of briefly highlight where we've been. The very first day, we talked about planning out how to follow up with students. So kind of scheduling and planning out your actual follow-up process with students. Once someone gets in touch with you, what are the actions that you need to do to make sure they actually follow through and join your studio? Yesterday, we talked about the first interactions that you have. So once that person actually reaches back out to you, either by phone call or coming in for an intro lesson, what do you do to ensure that they have the best experience possible? What do you do to raise the odds that they actually want to work with you? Today, I want to talk about what happens after that point. Once they've actually converted, once they've become a student, what should you be doing during those first few critical months that they're part of your studio? What should you be doing during that time? There's this concept, and I'm not sure where it originated. I've heard it from multiple different places, but they say that whenever a leader takes over an organization, whether it's a president coming into a country, whether it's a general taking over a division, whether it's a CEO taking over a company, and I say taking over, but really kind of taking the reins of power in whatever that power structure is, that the first 100 days are critical, that the first 100 days really sets the tone for how that leader is going to lead. I would say that when a student joins your studio, though you aren't taking over an organization, there is a critical 100-day period after they join your studio that you can really set the tone of what that relationship is going to be. And the seeds of that student's success, the seeds of a great relationship with the parent, the seeds of a great relationship with the student, the seeds of retention are planted during those first 100 days. So what we're going to talk about today is what should happen during those first 100 days, and I specifically want to focus on a particular tactic. There's so many ways I could take this, but there is a particular tactic that I want to show you how I implement this in my own studio and how I very intentionally schedule out and plan a certain series of steps with parents so that they have a great experience, and so that as I'm working with them, I'm taking advantage of the experience they're having. And I'll explain what I mean in just a second. So what do you do once they're in the door? What do you do once they've paid you? So first thing, and this, don't just hit off when I say this, because this is going to sound super obvious, but I'm going somewhere with this. But the first thing you have to make sure is that during those first several months, that child is having an incredible experience. That's the first thing you have to ensure. Now, I have a particular way of doing that. And while this on its face might seem obvious, if you'll give me just a second, I'll explain what I mean. There are some studios, there are some teachers that they're really, really good at coming up with creative games, creative activities for students to do. That isn't me. What I try to do during those first 100 days is really help students become exceptional sight readers. Because my deep belief is that if you make the process of learning feel easy for the child, that they're going to want to stay, because why wouldn't they? They're having fun. Now, a different teacher might have a different way of helping that child become really good at the music. Other teachers, they're good teachers, but they have a passion in songwriting. They have a passion in making the technical aspects of piano come alive. And even in the way I'm describing it, it doesn't sound quite vibrant, but if you were to talk to them, it really does sound quite vibrant. So something that gives that child an experience of success, and something that they can point to the parent and say, look what's happening here. This is really, truly remarkable. So whether it's games or activities or something, that's what we're trying to focus on. I'll even give one more example. In the Piano Express, the summer camp that I helped found like a decade and a half ago, those kids would come in, and the Piano Express became known for the activities that we did with the kids. And even though they were learning a lot of material, when we did the marketing for that, we didn't really focus as much on how much they were going to learn, as much as we focused on all the fun games and activities that we were doing. And you might think, well, isn't that what parents are signing up for? They're not signing up for activities and games. But what we found in the research we were doing was that parents were really concerned that kids would hate music because we were teaching them so much. So we actually de-emphasized the teaching at the beginning and emphasized more of the fun that kids were having. And we had videos of kids playing games and kids laughing. I mean, there's just these great shots we had where and of course we had permission to do this, but we would zoom in on a child, and they have this look of pure elation on their face, and that was in the video, or that was the picture that we took. So there's different focuses that we can have. Now, that is not just the point. I'm leading to something here, because the second step, the second thing that I do is that I continually remind parents of that value through the first 2 to 4 months. And then after 2 to 4 months, it all leads up to this. I reach out to parents, and this is the tactic I was speaking about, and this is really where I'm going specifically today. Because like I said, I could talk about many different things in those first 100 days. The way that I follow up with parents by email, there's so many different things, but this specifically, I reach out to the parents about 3 months in. A lot of times, and I've just identified this personally for my own studio, it might be different for yours, but personally, I've noticed this just growing disbelief by the parent that their child is having such a good experience. And what I mean by disbelief is, it's not a negative thing, it's actually a positive thing. I will speak to the parent at the end of the lesson, and they'll just say, I can't believe how fast they're moving, or I can't believe how much fun they're having. I often hear this, I don't even have to tell them to go to the piano. They just go when they're at home, and they just go to the piano. I've noticed that kind of peaks in months 3, 4, and 5. Because as the music gets harder, and I do blast kids through the first book very, very quickly, as the music gets harder, I don't hear quite as much, they just go to the piano without me telling. At a certain point, the child does really have to begin to work. The first book or 2 books in the Faber series or any series like that, very simple for the child to pick up. They can sight read those songs almost immediately if they're taught to sight read the proper way. And it's at a certain point when the path gets a little bit tougher for the child that maybe they're not as excited to go to the piano, and then we have to kind of rely on different things. And maybe I'll do a different video on how I keep those kids engaged even after it starts to get a little more complicated. Maybe I'll do that in the future. But since I have identified that 3 to 5 month period is really that kind of peak of the parent just being completely impressed and overwhelmed, that is when I go to them and ask them for a testimonial. And I'm going to get into exactly how I schedule this out, but I have a very specific process-based way of making sure that I get a testimonial from every parent who comes through my studio. Okay? So, the typical process is this. The main 2 places that I collect testimonials, and I'd recommend, write this down, I'd recommend you do this, have a tab on your website for testimonials. And I recommend getting, if you're on WordPress, this is very simple. If you're on a different platform, it might be a little more challenging. But I recommend you get a plugin or some sort of third-party software that you can put on that page so that when the person goes to the page, that they actually have to enter in the details themselves. In other words, I don't want to be going to the parent and asking for a testimonial, getting it back from them, and then having to go to the website and format the website myself and putting the testimonial on the website myself. I don't have to do that stuff for two reasons. One, it just takes more of my time, and I'm not really into that. And the second thing is that I think it looks better when anybody who's inspecting your studio and looking at your studio to join or thinking about joining your studio, I think it looks better when they go to that testimonial page and they see a place at the top where anybody can put in that testimonial. It just looks more real when they can see the place that anyone can come here and put in a testimonial, and then they see a dozen or 24 5-star reviews going down the page. They realize, someone could go in there and put in a testimonial right now. I could put something in there right now. Like there's something just more authentic and real when they see that. So those are the two reasons. So that's the first place I'd put it. Testimonial page on your site. The second place is Google reviews. Like it or not, Google owns the world. And about 70% of search traffic globally goes through Google search. Every other search engine represents the other 30% of search traffic. So typically when people are searching for lessons or searching for a studio or searching for a teacher, they're going through Google search 7 out of 10 times. And if your studio can come up and your studio has a bunch of reviews and then one right below it in those listings on Google My Business or Google Maps, if the one right below it has none, where do you think they're going to click first? Well, we don't actually have to guess because research has been done on this. They click on the one with the reviews. So I don't even have to conjecture. There are third-party companies that do all kinds of marketing research that have kind of verified this. So what I do is alternate between Google reviews and my own site, and I do it in a very specific way because when a student has been about 3 to 5 months in my studio and I ask them for that first review, I will send them to Google reviews, and then about 9 months to a year later, I will actually go back for a second review for them, but I will not have them put it on Google reviews. I'll have them put it on my site. Also, there's other places you can get reviews like Yelp, Thumbtack, third-party review sites. If you have multiple places where you're putting reviews online or you have multiple profiles online, so you can do reviews on a Facebook profile, you could add that in there as well. You don't have to do just these two. I personally just do these two. Now here's the thing. I don't want my Google reviews to all just be, hey, we just joined the studio 3 months ago and we're having this incredible experience. I don't want all those reviews to be like that. So let's say person A I send to Google reviews at 3 months in. The next time I ask someone who's 3 months in to go do a review, I'll have them go do it on my site. So that on Google reviews on my site, it kind of alternates. There's people who've been there for a short time, long time, short time, long time, short time, long time. And then the way that, sometimes I have to follow up with people for weeks to get them to do this. So it isn't exactly that way. And many times you can't tell how long a person's been there, but the quality of the comment is different when someone has been in the studio longer. They have more stories to tell. They have a different perspective. They have a different appreciation for how I've helped their students stay there for a while. So I like to alternate it a little bit. And then I have, and this is where we really get into scheduling and planning this out, which is really kind of the whole purpose of this series and the whole purpose of this video. But I have a regimented way of making sure that this happens on a weekly basis. And I am really going to just take you point by point through the way that I do this. And if you were to implement this, this will take you about 5 minutes a week, and you will have reviews coming out. You'll just have a lot of reviews, okay? Let's just put it that way. So the first thing is that, speaking of David Allen, I said that David Allen comment at the beginning. Your mind is for creating ideas, not holding ideas. What I'm about ready to tell you, I actually got from David Allen as well. He has this concept called the weekly review, that once a week in your personal and professional life, you need to just take an hour or two out and kind of tame the chaos by looking at all the open loops in your life and kind of dealing with those, or at least creating a plan for dealing with those, and then kind of planning out the week ahead. That if you truly want to be productive, you can do that. And I think anybody can do that. Anyone can take an hour or two. I personally do it on Sunday night. just kind of hole myself up in my office and just kind of plan things out. It makes my weeks so less stressful. It makes my weeks they just run so much more smoothly when I do that. Part of that process, I have a folder of things that I go through. Okay, I have to do this each week. These are things I'm committed to doing each week. And one of them is getting reviews. I literally have a weekly task set for myself when I do this weekly review on Sunday night, sometime between 3 to 9 p.m., ask for reviews. So I have an entire list of everybody I've asked a review for. I've got where they left it, when I asked them, when they actually left it, which site they left it on. So if I go back later and I think, did I ask them to do the 2-year review? And I can't remember, I can go back and look up any student's name and see if I've asked them to do a review before and where they left it. That way I can have them do it on a different platform. So if they've already done Google and they've already done my site, maybe I will have them go do Facebook, or maybe I'll have them go leave a review on Thumbtack if they came through Thumbtack, or any of these other review sites, Yelp, these sorts of things. Third-party review site. And so I have all that information there so I don't duplicate my efforts. So that's that. Then I will also look at my enrollment registers and look at who is about 3 to 5 months in. Typically, I will have at least one person a month, maybe even 2 or 3, especially after the fall rush. I get a lot around November to December time. I will just go through my enrollment registers and look at who registered 3 months ago, and then I'll send them that request for that. I'll send them that request for a review. Another reason I do this way and ask for a review so close to the beginning, not just that excitement that I was talking about earlier, and this is one of the last points I have to make, and then we're going to be done for today, because like I said, this is a little bit shorter video than the ones we've done earlier this week. But another reason I do that is that, my studio, it's not for everyone. I'll just put it that way. It's not for everyone. While I do tend to have a kind of casual program, I still do expect a lot of kids, or I still do expect a lot out of kids. Not everyone is perfectly cut out for that. And every once in a while, someone kind of slips through the cracks and they don't make it past 6 months, or they don't make it past a year. And so if those people leave without having shared what their experience was at the beginning, I've kind of lost that opportunity, because I can't go back a year later and say, hey, can you tell me how you felt 3 months in at least? Because perhaps they had a great experience there, but then the child just figured out, you know what? I'm not an indoors person. I'm a soccer person. I must follow my true calling and play soccer all the time. Kids are just like that. And it's fine. Not every kid has to like or love music or make it their life's passion or life's goal or career. So if a child comes through and they had a great experience on the front end, but it really just wasn't for them, I want to capture that enthusiasm while they had it, which is why it's so important to follow up with people not long after they're in their studio. And really, just as kind of a final point, truthfully, asking a parent for a review and asking them to actually think about what you've contributed to their lives, what you've contributed to their child's life, that's actually a way, and I'm not over-exaggerating this. I'm not just trying to say this is true. I really do believe it's true. But it does lead to feelings of loyalty and can really help with retention in a studio as well, which I know is very important to almost every teacher that I read their comments on Facebook. So that is my process. I have kind of that weekly time where I look at who needs to give me a review right now, and I'll just do that. Some weeks I don't send out a request, but usually 2-3 times a month on Sunday night, I'm sending out an email to a parent or to multiple parents saying, hey, do you mind to leave me a review? Final thought. You can do things that are even more advanced than this, than just getting a testimonial. You could do case studies. I don't know if you've seen case studies of clients of Grow Your Music Studio who've gone through some of my training programs like Successful Group Lessons or Studio Marketing Masterclass. I don't know if you've seen any case studies like that, but you could do a case study like that with a parent where you get them on camera, ask them questions, maybe have 3 to 5 questions about their experience in the studio, and just take those answers and post it as a video, of course with the parent's permission. And of course they're going to know that you're doing it because they're sitting there for the case study. But a really easy way to do this is to use a program like Google Hangouts or Zoom and do it over the internet. Don't do it in person, like 2 people sitting in easy chairs looking at each other and you've got, great camera. That's just way too much. Just use Google Hangouts, use Zoom, have that person on the screen, ask them the questions, and then just film using Zoom's inbuilt record feature or using Google Hangouts built-in record feature, just record their answers and just post that video. And you could get 5, 10, 15 case studies, and all you'd have to do is reach out to the parent and say, hey, do you mind to answer a few questions? And then just instead of doing it on the phone, you do it on camera. It's pretty simple. In theory, obviously executing it requires commitment, and executing on that plan will require to really want you to do that. But again, if you're looking to go that extra mile, if you're looking to stand out, which is really the whole purpose of this whole video, how to stand out, this is one way certainly to do it. Because when I look up music studios, people who are reaching out to me, maybe to work with me, people who've reached out to me and they just had a question, I'll go find their studio online. 4 out of 5 times, those studios have no reviews anywhere on their site or anywhere on the web. How does any studio plan to stand out, grow, increase income without putting those trust factors out in the world? And I just think it's so important to do this. And for at least the first part of this video, the testimonial technique, I'll call it, that's something that you can do in 5 minutes every week. And again, right there in that, and this is really the last thing I have to say, but right there in that task each week, I actually have a template email that I can literally just copy and paste, throw it in a new email, in my business email, and add the parent's name, and it's sent in 30 seconds. It's a template. I don't even rewrite the email each week. I just have that template of, hey, of kind of that way that over the years I've found certain ways of asking work better than others, and it really gets parents to move into action and actually go and do it. So I try to help them in that email. I try to give them specific directions. Here's what you should focus on. Here's some examples, these sorts of things. So I will just copy and paste that into an email, kind of go through that process, get their permission first, then send them a follow-up email with some of those greater details, and then the link to where I want them to leave their review, to leave their testimonial. So that is the way that I specifically and intentionally plan and schedule out those first 100 days as it pertains to getting testimonials from parents, so that kind of the proof and trust factors and social proof that my studio enjoys is out there all over the web. Tomorrow, the last day that I'm going to be doing a video this week, because I typically only do them on work days. I didn't do one on Monday this week though, because it was Labor Day here in the US. But tomorrow we're going to kind of go into my final plan, and maybe my most important plan, and that is planning out my success by being completely in charge of the numbers in my studio. Specifically, teachers often ask me, studio owners often ask me, how do I even know I'm doing well? Or they're confused as to why they're not getting more students. They're confused as to why their marketing efforts aren't working. I just spent $400 on Facebook ads and I didn't get a single request. What's wrong? There are actually specific numbers that if you're aware of them, you can diagnose exactly where your marketing is breaking down, exactly where all your growth and outreach efforts, all your efforts to enroll new students, where are those breaking down? There are actually just a couple of numbers in your business that if you know them, you will be able to diagnose the problem and fix it. And what I will tell you is, my experience working with a lot of studios. I worked with 150 last year. I've worked with more than that this year already. Most teachers aren't even aware of where these numbers are, and most don't even know that it even exists. So definitely come back tomorrow. I'll be on sometime before probably noon tomorrow, so just keep an eye on Facebook. If it'd be helpful, just hit the notify button on the Grow Your Music Studio Facebook page. It'll actually notify you on your phone when I go live. So anyway, have a good day. Thanks so much for your attention. I really do appreciate it. If you have a question, leave it in the comments below. If you have a thought, criticism, comment, leave it in the comments below. I will make a follow-up video if someone has a question. Maybe I wasn't clear here, or they want me to go into detail on something else. So thanks so much, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.